Hey, everybody, Off the Mic Sports Network here. Another edition of Off the Top Rope. We're going to talk about AEW Dynamite. And guys, let's call it what it is. Double or Nothing is 2 weeks from Sunday, and we have two matches announced. Two matches announced. Now I think we know where this is going off of, some of the stuff that's going to happen at Beach Break. I think we're going to get Anarchy in the arena in some capacity, and you're gonna have some variation of the same guys that they've been throwing in the same matches, like Ricochet. I mean Ricochet and the Bucks. Swerve's gonna be involved. Like the ops will probably be doing some shit. Like it's gonna shake out how you think it's gonna shake out. But the fact is, we have two matches that have been announced for this show. Both were tournament matches. That I said it on another video. I think that the Hangman and Ospreay stuff is easily the best thing on this show. But what the hell else did the rest of this show accomplish at all? What else did this show accomplish? You had after that promo, you had Toni Storm beating three women who had no business being in an eliminator match. She just beat Penelope Ford, Thunder Rosa, and Anna Jay. While Megan Bayne just ran in and just beat everybody up. It didn't make any sense. You had MJF needing to hurt somebody to impress Bobby Lashley, and he hurts Top Flight. I like Darius and Dante. They haven't done shit that's supposed to light a fire. The MJF story has kind of lost some steam. At some point, there's got to be a move here to kind of set this off in the right direction. But yeah, that was kind of a questionable thing. Then we get for whatever reason, Rhino's on the show, and admittedly, it's cool to see him in Detroit. But he faces Nick Wayne. Nick Wayne kind of botches a kill switch to win the match, and we still really don't get more tease tension, but not really much. So it's like, yeah, we brought in a legend to have him job out to Nick Wayne in 3 minutes. Like what that's just not something that I feel like needs to be on the show. But it's just, Then we get the match that I was really critical of. The finish to, the trios match, it was Mark Briscoe, Mike Bailey, and Swerve taking on the Young Bucks and Ricochet. Ricochet doing the whole hair bit. He didn't even get it right. It was dumb. And then, Swerve gets pinned clean on a roll up. And that was the shocking point of this whole thing. That was a little bit of surprise. But, again, it was much of the same. It was almost the same match that we saw last week. It's almost the same match that we saw last week. Ospreay and MJF kind of teasing into, and this makes me a little bit concerned that Ospreay may win, because then maybe we'll see MJF interact with Hangman, and we've seen it before. So maybe they're trying to create a misdirect to see who's going to win the championship, or who's going to win the Owen Hart Cup. Mercedes and Jamie had a good little interaction. Still, I'm kind of in and out of the whole little debate. I mean, we get Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale. They're setting themselves up for a match. This time last year, they were fighting each other and literally trying to kill each other. Or we were right at the point of Chris's heel turn, and now Chris is trying to earn back her respect. That doesn't make any sense. Okada and Kevin Knight have an eliminator match, so 2 eliminator matches on this show. Kevin Knight gets attacked before the bell by Roosh, because I guess Roosh blamed him for losing the $100,000 match that they had, that 4-way on Collision. For those of you who watch Collision, and Okada wins this match. No teasing with Kenny Omega. We know where that's going. So this didn't really accomplish anything. Don Callis was really heavily involved on this show. And then, Claudio and Samoa Joe have a 10-minute match. Samoa Joe wins. The Ops get the upper hand on the Death Riders going into the steel cage match next week at Beach Break in Chicago. And, it was admittedly a hot crowd in Detroit, but let's take a look at this for a second. Let's break this thing down. Nothing happened on this show. Nothing. You're 2 weeks from a pay-per-view. That's one of your longest running pay-per-views, and the one that started it all for AEW. and almost nothing happened on this show. Like Donnie, like here, looking to next week, here's what we've got to build after this great promo. And I was very high praise of what happened in the beginning. But then after, Osprey and Hangman get done, Don Callis shows up and, hey, we're going to have Don Callis. So it's going to be Takeshita and Josh Alexander, who is easily blended into the background. I mean, he's wrestling a bunch of matches, but it's like he feels like just another guy. I like Josh Alexander, and Takeshita, I think Takeshita is just the perfect professional wrestler, but he's being grounded down by this Don Callis bullshit. And so we're doing the will they or they won't they? Can they coexist storyline? Has that ever worked? Like, what? You got two guys trying to fight to be the world champion, and now we're doing this will they or they won't they coexist? Like, what logic is there in that? Like, after such a great promo there, you're just going to do a match to get there. The Tony Storm thing made no sense whatsoever. And I thought maybe they might have just somebody win the match in a 4-way, but she just beats 4 women. She just beat one of them. So what did that accomplish? She just got Tony Storm on the show, and I love Tony Storm to death. I'd rather see her trying to sell and try to, put something into or maybe even run it back with Megan Bayne. Like Megan Bayne, that was a tight match. I don't see any reason why they can't go back to that. Why even have this match? And Megan Bayne comes in and just destroys a bunch of people. Like, okay, so that didn't accomplish anything. The Okada thing made no sense. You've got MJF MJF trying to impress the Hurt Syndicate by attacking Top Flight, a team that hasn't mattered in a long time. And, it's just, sometimes I wonder where the creative head is with this company, because sometimes they just seem to coast. And then when things start to ramp up and you get close to the pay-per-view, they just scramble and they find a way to on most cases, with the exception of, the ending of Revolution and obviously, the disaster that was Dynasty, which was basically half of a collision and then, a shit main event with a shit ending. Like they don't seem to get the basics of you have to go week to week and you have to do shit that matters. When you put on a show like this, admittedly, the crowd was fantastic tonight. And their decision to go to smaller venues has really benefited them, because these shows don't sound like a funeral anymore. Like, there is more reaction and there's more and maybe it's just some of the production and some of the volumes, but also, being in smaller venues, it makes it louder. So from a Nat sound and ambiance perspective, it's very, it sounds much better than it did the last year or so, because they're not going to full arenas. And that's actually, I got to give them credit for that. But when you provide a show like this 2 weeks before a pay-per-view and you only have 2 matches on it, you're presumably not going to get a world championship match on this show, because you're going to do Anarchy in the Arena, but we haven't set that up yet. It's probably going to come out of that world title match. And so then basically what we have 1 week of television to really set the stage for what's going to happen and if there's going to be any stakes or not and we still don't even know who really the participants are. We've kind of had a misdirect, but they're just doing the same match. They've done the same variation of the same match over the last 3 weeks. We're finishing with the Death Riders lull, and hey, the Death Riders don't get the upper hand this week, which tells you the obvious. Samoa Joe isn't winning next week. Kevin Knight in a random match. It's good that they're showcasing the guy, but, Okada gets put over. No Kenny Omega shows up. Like that, we know where that's going. It's just like you're trying to tell stories, and the one story that really has even resonated is one that you've had for 5 or 6 years, and I'm not even sure that they're going to pay that off at the pay-per-view. I said it in my previous video. AEW has a chance to really do something potentially great and have a great redemption arc put on for their fans. Or they can go with the easy way out and go and take the cheap way and go with Will Ospreay because he's so great in wrestling in the ring and he's getting paid a bunch of money, and it just feels like, in some ways it feels like the right way to crown him, but when you stack him up against Hangman, there's so many things wrong with this show right now. And considering that just 3 weeks ago, what was it, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, right before WrestleMania, where this company put on maybe one of its best episodes of Dynamite in 2 or so years. That great show from Boston. Awesome stuff happened all throughout the night. Great crowd, great matches, delivered in every aspect. Hell, even the main event last week was great. This just out after the show started, it just felt like a giant turd. Just a giant turd. There was nothing that happened that makes you care and makes you interested in coming back next week. We're getting a tag match with the two guys who are in the Owen Hart final. Great. We've got a world championship match next week. Great. We know Jon Moxley's winning. Okay, cool. I love Samoa Joe. It admittedly will be fine, but okay. It's just, and then MJF is going to get his decision from Bobby Lashley after he beat up Top Flight. That's what's tipping Bobby Lashley? That just hurting somebody, but hurting Top Flight? And again, like I said, I'm not trying to discredit Darius and Dante Martin, the talents. They haven't been presented in a way for us to even care at that level. That's my issue. And it's almost like, it's just like Tony Khan just walks into the writer's room every week and it's just like, we'll throw darts at the dartboard and we'll see what happens. Like I told you guys, when these eliminator matches were made on Tuesday, I was like, I thought this was a fucking joke. It's almost like they put in a randomizer and just like threw this match out and just randomized a couple of matches. Because they have no bearing on what's going to happen. And your goal is to get people to spend $50 on your show or even buy a ticket. That's your goal. And 2 weeks out from this show, there's 2 matches on it. That is a failure. That is a failure. And getting people to come back and watch your show should also be a goal. And there's no real hook in coming back. There's nothing interesting. At least you kind of had, hey, Hangman won. We'll see what he has to say to Ospreay. They set that up and they did that beautifully. Everything else here is like, okay, cool. Just another week of AEW television. And it's mystifying to me that sometimes how lazy this company can be. And, everybody wants to rag on WWE for some of the stuff that they did leading into WrestleMania. Look at what they've done in the last 3 weeks. Look what they've done in the last 3 days. They've established a new heel faction. They're creating a bunch of branching out storylines. And in 3 weeks, they've created even a semi-compelling backlash card. You could snicker at some of these matches like Gunther and Pat McAfee. They spent a lot of time in the last 2-3 weeks actually making that fucking interesting. John Cena and Randy Orton may not be a 5-star classic, but they've got a bunch of buzz behind it. Becky Lynch, Lyra Valkyria. They've done a good job with a short build to, set this thing up. Yet here we are 2 weeks away and nothing's happening. Nothing's happening in AEW. And I know that there's going to be other stuff that's going to happen, but it's going to get thrown together quickly and it's not going to make a ton of sense. And it may not feel like it's going to be on pay-per-view. So that's really my thoughts on this show. It's just like, I feel like I'm a broken record here, man. Like I do this every single week with the exception of that Boston show. And I just, it's almost like they want us. They want the content creators and people like me to come out here and just rip them a new one. It's clueless. It's mind-numbing stupidity when it comes to this, or it's just ignorance, or it's just or something else. I have no idea, but you've got to be better than this. You've got to be better than this, especially when your ratings keep flailing around, not near where they should be. Your ticket sales for All In haven't been great. And you're going to hang on. Hey, we have great sales for that, that London show, which is going to be at the O2, not at Wembley this year for Forbidden Door. You can hang on that. But, British fans are going to buy anything. They love wrestling. They love their wrestling. So I don't know, man. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.